Hi, let's play a game. What is very hot in the streets, incredibly confusing, and I know a ton about? Attack on Titan! God, I love that this show exists because it's incredibly popular, but even more complicated. I mean, this show is a gobbledygook of information. If you watch Attack on Titan just one time through without doing any additional reading and you understand what's going on, you should work for the CIA. That's what I'm here for. I'm the explain it guy. And I know it's not Naruto, but you know, I know a lot of things about a lot of anime, so I'd appreciate it, guys, if you could support me in this endeavor. So let's start out easy today, right? Let's talk about something that everybody surely knows and understands, the 9 Titans. Before we get into talking about any of the 9 Titans, please guys, for me, like this video, follow the page, and hit that noti bell. Before we get into all that, guys, today we got a new sponsor. Today we're talking about disc plates. Listen, I was a big paper poster guy for a long time, but they rip. You have to nail holes in your wall. Your landlord yells at you. It's terrible, which is why it's time to upgrade to metal posters. Disc plates is the home of 40,000 artists' work displaying 1.3 million different prints, many of which are anime based. There's both branded and artistic designs, and even disc plates official designs. But what makes these unique? Like I said, they're metal, but there's a unique mounting system. Every disc plate comes with these 2 magnets. So all you have to do is pull off this blue adhesive cover, slap this magnet on, and adhere it to your wall. And boom, just like that, you have a hole-free, mess-free, impossible to tear poster that's gonna last you forever. So what are you guys waiting for? Use my code below to get 23% off an order of 1 to 2 disc plates, or 27% off an order of 3 or more. Trust me, the money you save buying this one metal poster over the dozens that'll rip and tear on you, you're gonna thank me. You remember when I said that everybody's gonna understand the 9 Titans? I lied. This is still very complicated subject matter. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna do this spoiler free. That being said, if you haven't had the ending of Attack on Titan spoiled for you, whoo, buddy, you have the best luck on earth. Like, go to Las Vegas right now and just put 100 on black, because this fan base takes pride in how fast it can pump out spoilers. There's no way to certifiably be like, this Titan is stronger than this Titan, because it's largely dependent on who has it. Like, I can sit here and probably tell you that the Kart Titan is the weakest out of all the Titans, but there's things about the Kart Titan that make it stronger than the Armored Titan in certain regards. It's largely about who has it and how they use it. But that being said, there is some redundancies amongst the powers and other things that could point you in the direction of being like, this Titan's probably stronger than this Titan. So I'm gonna do my best to rank them in a way that I think is appropriate. And if you disagree, well, my page. So we already preluded to it before. The bottom of this list is gonna have to be the Kart Titan. I don't like putting the Kart at the bottom because the Kart is actually very powerful in its own right. Kart is the second fastest out of all of the Titans and has the best endurance. You strap a cannon to its back and it's even with pretty much anyone out there. But obviously we can't take the cannon into account. But before we get into truly explaining what the Kart Titan is, let's talk a bit about its history. Kart Titan, like all other 9 Titans, was created after the death of Ymir Fritz, the original founding Titan. And in the 1700 years following Ymir's death, the Kart Titan was in the hands of one of the ruling families of Eldia. But Eldia was rife with conflict. The ruling Eldian families battled other countries for power, or between themselves for power over their own country, until eventually Karl Fritz, the 145th king of the Fritz family, said, I'm out, and went to Paradis with his people. Paradis being the island that Attack on Titan is now based out of. Except a bunch of people leaving Eldia created something called the Great Titan War. Essentially, Marleyans, the people who were living under the Eldians, saw that the country was losing a bit of its power. So they chose this as the opportunity to rise up against the Eldian government. And they fought against the royal families with their Titans. The royal families had the Titans, the Marleyans didn't. Except the Marleyans did have the backing of the Tibers, an Eldian royal family that had the Warhammer Titan. And in this Great Titan War, the Kart Titan fell into the hands of Marley, which brings us to now where Peak has the Kart Titan. It itself is about 4 meters tall, which seems short, but that's because it stands on all 4s. And the fact that it stands on all 4s is what separates it from a lot of the other Titans outside of the jaw. The Kart's quadrupedal nature catches a lot of people off guard with its speed. Because, like I stated earlier, the only Titan that's faster than the Kart is the jaw. I mean, this speed is so impressive that it was able to catch both Levi and Hanji off guard. And I mean, come on, that's Levi and Hanji. But on top of that, because this Titan was on all 4s, it kind of had a flat spot on its back. A flat spot which has been used for thousands of years to transport things from goods to people. Before artillery cannons could be strapped to its back, it was used to transport troops or supplies to the front lines. But obviously nowadays they can strap full machine gun turrets to the top of it or an artillery cannon capable of blowing the head off the armor Titan. Not that that's happened, it's just that like they could. But the most impressive thing about the Kart Titan is its endurance. Peak has said that she can stay as the Kart Titan for literal weeks. In fact, she stays as the Kart Titan for so long that when she's out of her Titan form, she has to walk around on all fours or use crutches because she forgets how to be bipedal. This makes the Kart Titan ideal for longer stealth operations or long trips where a lot of supplies need to get moved. And while the Kart Titan does have the worst defense out of any of the Titans on this list, that's not necessarily a detractor towards it, because Peak herself said that she could make the transformation into the Kart Titan hundreds of times over and barely feel fatigued. So essentially, any moment that the Kart Titan gets injured, Peak can just pop out and make a new one. This is incredible as a diversion tactic. Steam release from a decaying Kart Titan is great cover for her to make another one. That being said, another con is that Kart Titan inheritors also heal outside of combat slower than any of the other Titan shifters. If Peak were to lose her hand, it would take much longer for her to regrow it than if Reiner did. But speaking of Reiner, next up on our list is the Armored Titan. I know, crazy, right? The Armored Titan is number 8. And wow, yes, the Armored Titan up against, let's say, the Wall Guard is gonna be very powerful. But if you're talking Armored Titan versus any of the other Titan shifters, it's at a distinct disadvantage. And that is for a couple of reasons. But before we get into those reasons, let's talk a little bit history on the Armored Titan. The Armored Titan has a very similar backstory to the Kart Titan. During the Great Titan War, it fell into the hands of Marley. And we know that now, Marley uses the Armored Titan kind of as a riot shield. The Armored Titan is sent out to deflect most of the enemy gunfire and artillery, because most artillery isn't strong enough to pierce through Titan armor. But since we're talking about Titan armor, let's talk about Titan armor. Reiner's Armored Titan is actually modeled after someone. That someone is Brock Lesnar, famed WWE fighter, I guess wrestler, and semi-famed UFC actual fighter. And while some might assume that all Armored Titans have looked like Reiner, it's actually not true. While all Armored Titans, yes, have the ability to harden their skin and create armor, all Armored Titans have gone about it in different ways. While Reiner focuses on covering large swaths of his body with big plates of armor except for his joints, other Titans have gone about it different ways. There have been Titans that have decided to cover their body in tiny little armored circles, even at their joints. And by using these tinier bits of armor, it's more like chainmail than plate armor. There have been Armored Titans who created themselves helmets. All of these are possibilities for any Armored Titan. Just a little fun fact. The downside to the Armored Titan is that this is literally all they can do. They are able to harden parts of their body into armor. And the even further downside of that is that most Titans can harden. The jaw, the female, the attack, the beast, all can harden. Oh, and the more armor the Armored Titan has, the slower it gets. Obviously, the Armored Titan can lose pieces of armor to make itself faster, but then you're just the Titan without armor. And then there's things obviously like the Mid-East Allied Forces anti-Titan artillery, which can punch directly through said armor. So considering the fact that the Armored Titan's whole spiel is something that a lot of other Titans have, it's hard to put it high on the list. After the Armored Titan, I have probably another controversial pick, the Attack Titan. Now, I'm not talking about Eren Yeager's Attack Titan, because Eren Yeager's Attack Titan has both the powers of the Armored Titan and the Founding Titan. He is not a good representation of what the Attack Titan can do. Eren can only harden because he ate a vial of the spinal fluid from the Armored Titan, and he only has the power of the Founding Titan because his father ate the royal family. So without either of these powers, he wouldn't be able to connect to all the people of Ymir, he wouldn't be able to harden, he wouldn't be able to see into the past as well as he can, or the future for that matter. You see, because Eren's grasp over his ability to see into the future and the past is mostly because of his founding power. Usually the Attack Titan isn't able to cohesively see what's happening in the future. It's much like how other Titan shifters see into the past. They get waves of incomplete memories. Like when Eren Krueger was about to pass on the Attack Titan to Grisha, Eren's father, and he told him, "You have to protect Mikasa and Armin." It was simply a memory that came to him that he had no connection to whatsoever. And Grisha also had no connection to it. But the Attack Titan does have the most interesting of the histories of all the 9 Titans. The Attack Titan fell into the hands of Marley after the Great Titan Wars. However, in the year 819, an unknown spy from Paradis inherited the Attack Titan. This was Eren Krueger. We don't know whether or not Eren Krueger used the Attack Titan during his 13-year stint, but we do know that he used it at the end of his 13-year stint to kill the people who were killing Eldian restorationists, aka the public security authorities. And after he killed the public security authorities that were about to kill Grisha, he passed the Titan down to Grisha, trusting him with the mission to get King Fritz's Founding Titan in combination with the Attack Titan. And this is the first time we see the Attack Titan peer into the future. But like I said, the Attack Titan doesn't have a control on what memories come to them. Eren sees that he reaches the coordinate from Grisha's memories, but he doesn't see that Ymir only listens to those with royal blood. This is the con of the Attack Titan. Your foresight is not under your control. And outside of that, you are just a Titan. Sure, a 15-meter, absolutely ripped Titan who's relatively fast and strong, but still, just a Titan. And when you consider that the Founding Titan is able to see time in a non-linear function, it doesn't necessarily make the Attack Titan special. Well, we got a long way to go till the Founding Titan. Up next, we have the Jaw Titan. Yes, I think the Jaw Titan is stronger than the Attack Titan. Well, I guess it depends on the Jaw Titan. This is one of those situations where it's kind of weird, because Galliard's Jaw Titan is significantly stronger than Ymir's Jaw Titan. But since the Jaw Titan has about the most confusing history, let's go over it. Jaw Titan was one of the 7 Titans that fell into the hands of Marley during the Great Titan War. And in the year 843, Marcel Galliard, the older brother to the Galliard we know, Porco Galliard, was chosen to receive the Jaw Titan. While we only see his Jaw Titan in the manga, it had the mask like Porco's Jaw Titan, but not the claws. But then in the year 845, Marcel, Annie, Berthold, and Reiner were sent to Paradis. And this is where Ymir's pure Titan stumbled upon the 4, soon to be 3. Ymir's Titan is about to get a hold of Reiner, but Marcel pushes him out of the way, sacrificing himself to Ymir's pure Titan. And then boom, Ymir gets access to the Jaw Titan. See, Ymir had been a pure Titan for 60 years, just wandering around aimlessly. And she hit the jackpot of people to eat. This is actually why pure Titans eat people, because they're hoping to find a Titan shifter out of one of these people that'll allow them to become a human again. And that's just what Ymir got to do. But Ymir's Jaw Titan looked nothing like Marcel's. See, the true mark of a Jaw Titan is super hardened teeth, and being slightly quadrupedal, sometimes being on 4 feet, sometimes being on 2, and being a bit smaller than the other Titans. In this regard, Ymir looked just like a Jaw Titan. She had super hardened teeth, she was smaller, and she did walk on all 4 sometimes. Ymir had the Jaw Titan for 9 years, and in those 9 years, she decided with her new human life to move to the interior to live with humans, where she was a thief. And it was in the interior where Ymir overheard a meeting from the Churches of the Walls that a woman by the name of Krista Lenz was going to join the 104th Training Corps. Ymir wanted to meet Krista, so Ymir joined the 104th Training Corps. A lot of things happen. Eventually, Ymir and all of her teammates get backed into a corner by a bunch of Titans. It's at this point that Ymir has to show everyone that she can turn into a Titan to fight off all the other Titans. And after that, Krista reveals herself to be Historia. This just drives up how much Ymir wants to protect Historia. So after Berthold and Reiner reveal themselves to be the armored and colossal Titans, Ymir decides to join them in order to save Historia. And then she joins the Scouts again, until she sees Eren use the founding power to bring Titans to him. And then she rejoins Marley. And after she's done all of that, she gets sent back to Marley. They want to keep their assets close. And in the year 854, she is fed to Porco, which is crazy because that's only 9 years into her 13-year stint. So they just shaved 4 years off her. And Porco has the most powerful Jaw Titan we've seen. You see, because Porco had a Jaw Titan very similar to his older brother's Marcel's. He had the super hardened teeth in the form of the mask, but he also had super hardened claws that can rip through Titan armor or entire buildings. He also lived up to the Jaw Titan name in being the fastest Titan out there. But the real reason that the Jaw Titan is called the Jaw Titan is its unbelievable grip strength with its mouth. Eren was able to use the Jaw Titan's jaw to shatter the crystalline structure that was around the user of the Warhammer Titan. And that's the real con that comes along with being the Jaw Titan. You are fast, but if you are caught, you are very weak. And the weak get used as nutcrackers. But hey, at least your mask can deflect bullets, right? Here's my thing, right? Okay, so Eren uses the Jaw Titan to crush the Warhammer Titan's juices into his mouth. And that's all well and good. Eren gets to use Warhammer abilities now. Why didn't Galliard get anything? There was as much Tiber juice in his mouth as Eren's, right? Does it have to do with Eren having the I don't think it has to do with Eren having the Founding Titan. I honestly, I need an answer to this question. But before we get too derailed, let's move on to our next entry, the Female Titan. This is the worst named out of all of the Titans in Attack on Titan. Because first off, female has nothing to do with the abilities of the Female Titan. Every other Titan is named after what it does. Female Titan has boobs, and they were like, I'm gonna have to call that one the Female Titan G. Also, can men get the Female Titan? Regardless, let's talk history of the Female Titan. Female Titan is one of the 7 Titans that fell into the hands of Marley after the Great Titan War, and it fell into the hands of Annie in 843, I'm sorry. After it was given to Annie, she was sent to an enemy nation to fight for Marley. So Paradis was not her first mission. But since she was sent to Paradis, she did a great job there. She was actually the person responsible for filling up the hole in Wall Maria with a bunch of new Titans to eat people. What do I mean by that? Well, let's get into the Female Titan's abilities. Outside of the fact that the Female Titan Titan is considered the perfect all-around Titan, it has a couple of other abilities. The female Attack Titan is considered the perfect all-around Titan because it has some of the best endurance out of any of the Titans. Annie was able to run from the coast of Paradise to the first wall. On top of that, it is very strong and 14 meters tall, only a meter shorter than the Attack Titan. And that's great and all, but the female Titan's true ability is adaptation. The female Titan can display the abilities of other Titans if it just consumes a little part of them, not the whole thing. She chomps on the Jaw Titan's finger and she might get super strong claws. But because of this, Marley heavily experimented on her. And because there were so many Titans within Marley, there was a lot to give to her. From Zeke, they were able to give her the ability to summon Titans. Annie, with her scream, can summon pure Titans to her location. Only problem is they start attacking her, but as long as she pops out of that body or just runs to a different location, she's fine. And this is how she filled the Wall Maria hole with a bunch of pure Titans. While her range isn't as good as the Founding Titan or even as good as Zeke's, it's still ridiculous she can do this. And if you really think about it, in the way that Annie used this ability, it's actually very useful. Annie can call Titans to her Titan, pop out of it, and then use ODM gear and the steam emitted from her Titans to escape without people seeing who was in charge of the Titan. Also, from the Marleyan Titans, she got hardening. Given a little bit of Reiner's DNA, she was able to harden her Titan form. Annie's able to harden her fist to make her punches more powerful, or make a crystal cocoon around her so she can't be eaten or killed. This ability to adapt without the use of the Founding Titan and only needing a little bit of the DNA of other Titans is incredibly powerful. It stands to reason that if she got a hunk of Founding Titan DNA, she would be able to use Founding Titan abilities to a small degree, which puts her super high on the list, but not quite as high as our next entry on the list, the Beast Titan. Do you ever wonder why it's not called the Monkey Titan and it's called the Beast Titan? That's because the Beast Titan actually isn't always a monkey. The Beast Titan is any animal it can be or wants to be depending on the person who's inherited it. There has been sheep Beast Titans. There has been an alligator Beast Titan. The only thing that's consistent with the Beast Titan is that it's usually larger than your average Titan. The only reason Zeke's looks like a monkey is because a monkey is the only beast that would be able to throw things, specifically rocks, at people at very high velocities. The Beast Titan was one of the 7 Titans that Marley retained after the Great Titan War, and in 829 Tom Ksaver, whatever his name was, inherited the Beast Titan. You see, his Beast Titan wasn't a monkey. In fact, it was a big horned sheep, but he never battled during any of Marley's wars because he claimed that the Beast Titan wasn't useful in war. At least maybe his big horned sheep version wasn't. But that all changed when Zeke inherited the Beast Titan, because he was instantly put on the battlefield against enemy nations where he used his scattershot rock throw to eliminate retreating enemies. And that's really the only attribute of the Beast Titan. Whatever beast you do create with your Titan, you get its abilities, but significantly larger. But Zeke's Beast Titan is very specifically different. Zeke's ability to throw things and also the fact that he has royal blood separates him from the rest of all other Beast Titans. Because of this, obviously, he crushed up rocks and used them to throw at enemies or entire fleets of naval ships, but he also had other abilities, like hardening. In Zeke's first fight against Levi, it is shown that he tried to harden his nape, but Levi got there too early. And in their rematch, Levi versus Zeke, he actually succeeded in hardening his nape so Levi wouldn't be able to cut in. But Thunder Spears did the trick anyways. But regardless, the fact that Zeke can harden and all is very interesting. Why can he harden? We don't really know, but he's got an even scarier ability, and that's his ability to turn subjects of Ymir into Titans. If you get any of Zeke's spinal fluid in your body using his scream, which doesn't even necessarily have to be a scream, he can turn you into a pure Titan. This power has been used several times, like the time that the Marleyan military used this power to drop newly made Titans onto their enemies' cities. And Zeke can control these newly made Titans. Zeke's royal blood allows him to use his scream-based ability to have control over pure-blooded Titans. While it isn't nearly as complete as that of the Founding Titan, he is able to direct these pure Titans in a direction, which is more than Annie can say. So it's hard not to put him this high on the list, even though a lot of his abilities come from what you could call extenuating circumstances. But even Zeke's abilities pale in comparison to the next entry on our list, the Warhammer Titan. See, to me, the Warhammer Titan has a very interesting history. The Warhammer Titan was one of the 7 Titans that ended up in Marley after the Great Titan Wars, but it was never under control of Marley. Instead, the Warhammer Titan was owned by an Eldian family, the Tibers. But instead of teaming up with the other Eldian families against Marlians, the Tyburs teamed up with the Marlians. The Tyburs used the power of the Warhammer Titan to help the Marlians win. And because they came to the Marlians' aid so early on in the war, Marlians decided to let the Tyburs be honorary aristocrats to Marley, and therefore keep the Warhammer Titan. The Tyburs then swore to keep the Marlians protected with this power. However, the Warhammer Titan isn't used again until Aaron sieges Marley, which is weird considering the amount of conflicts Marley was in over the course of that century. You could say this was mostly to make sure that nobody ever figured out which one of the Tyburs was in possession of the Warhammer Titan, because that was a closely held secret only high-level officials knew. The inheritor ended up being Laura Tybur, who was treated like a lemon on a hot day and squished into the glass that was Aaron's mouth. But I know what you're saying.
How could the Warhammer Titan, who lost to the Attack Titan, be this high on the list?
It's a fair question, but remember that we're not taking Aaron's Attack Titan as the real Attack Titan in this situation. In the same way that the Beast Titan also has a caveat next to its name. The Warhammer Titan is able to create weapons or really any structure from its flesh. And these weapons or structures or protrusions are all as strong as Titan armor because they are strengthened, hardened Titan flesh. These creations can be anything from a Warhammer to spikes that shoot out of the ground so powerful they're able to lift a 15-meter Titan in Aaron. They can also be used to make blades, axes, all of these things. But what's most impressive is that this ability can be used to create flexible components, such as a string to a crossbow or a cat of nine tails whip. Can you imagine the pull strength on Titan armored flesh? Imagine the crossbow bolt that would shoot. And much like how we saw Annie encapsulate herself in a crystal, the Warhammer Titan could do the same thing to their user. And this is actually something the Warhammer Titan did quite often. Before going into a battle, a Warhammer Titan user would encapsulate themselves in a crystalline structure and then attach an umbilical cord-like structure to their actual Titan. Unlike Annie's encapsulation, the Warhammer Titan is able to remain conscious and therefore control the Warhammer Titan from a distance, effectively meaning if you slice the Warhammer's nape, it will not kill it. And while this is a massive plus, it is also a massive con, because if you slice this umbilical-like cord thing, the Warhammer Titan shuts down. And while of course you can make another Warhammer Titan, the Warhammer Titan is very tall, 15 meters to be exact, so making multiple of them is very tough. Another con is that stamina is not infinite. You cannot create limitless weapons. And the last con is you are completely defenseless while encapsulated in your crystalline structure. If Aaron thinks you look like a nice walnut he wants to crack, well, unfortunately, if he's got a Jaw Titan laying around, that's gonna happen. But there is one Titan who will never end up being somebody else's snack, well, at least as long as they're in Titan form, and that's our next entry on the list. The Colossal Titan. You know, it's funny, it's actually the Colossus Titan, but everyone calls it Colossal. The Colossus Titan is terrifying, and not just because it's 60 meters tall, but because it is essentially a walking nuclear weapon. It, like so many other Titans, was one of the 7 Titans that Marley won in the Great Titan War, and in 843 it was given to Berthold. And the first instance of its use we ever see is when Berthold is brought to an enemy village by the Kart Titan. Then he just walks into the middle of this village, activates his Colossal Titan mode, and no more village. Obviously, he was also partially responsible for kicking a hole in Wall Maria. Well, not partially, fully responsible for the hole. But what's interesting about this whole kicking a hole in Wall Maria thing is when Berthold turns into the Colossus Titan in this situation, he doesn't explode violently. Yes, wind is blown and maybe the wall mitigated some of the shock wave, but at the end of the day, it wasn't as nuclear as it looks in other times. And this is a good time to start talking about the Colossus Titan's abilities. All Titans create heat and explosions when they transform. It is somehow a massively exothermic experience for them to grow these bodies, which makes little to no sense chemically, but who am I kidding? But the Colossus Titan is a bit different. They can choose how much energy and pressure they put out when transforming. In Berthold alone, we saw him transform outside of Wall Maria and barely made any wind move. But in the Shiganshina district, Berthold's transformation caused a literal mushroom cloud. An explosion so large that it ravaged part of the city, killed hundreds to maybe even thousands of people, and sent a shockwave across the entire district. Armin himself has shown his transformation to be able to wipe out an entire Marleyan naval fleet. Armin transformed deep in the ocean, and the explosion was so intense that the impact of the shockwave was felt deeply on land. Well, let's say you don't murder everything with your literal nuke transformation. That's fine, you're still 180 feet tall, which means you are still the strongest Titan on the face of the earth, which means you are still strong enough to kick Aaron's Titan from the ground to the top of Wall Maria. which means you are strong enough to destroy the rest of the Marleyan naval ships you haven't yet destroyed with your explosion by just stepping on them. But what if somebody gets too close to you? The Colossal Titan does not have the ability to harden its flesh. If you get at that nape, it's pretty much GG's. Unless, of course, the Colossal Titan has another ability. You see, all Titans emit steam when they are either forming or decomposing. They even do it while they're regenerating from wounds. But the Colossus Titan has the ability to control this steam output, meaning that should anybody get close to its nape, it can emit steam, very hot, very fast steam, out of its entire body. This steam repels incoming projectiles and incoming people, but it comes at a cost, because finally AOT decided to listen to biological and chemical signalings. In order to emit this steam, something has to be being burned, and that something being burned is the Titan's body, specifically its muscles. The muscle is used up and then made into literal steam and heat and energy and expelled outwards. Should you happen to use this steam release for a long amount of time, you will use all the muscles on your Colossal Titan. And usually this isn't a problem. A little steam is going to kill anybody around you. Unless, of course, there's somebody out there as dedicated as Armin, who decided that he wanted a little bit of a tan. In that case, well, kind of out of luck, because you do not get to make the Colossal Titan twice in one day. It is 60 meters tall. It is incredibly depletive to even do it once, but not nearly as depletive as it is to turn into our next Titan on the list, the Founding Titan. Yes, of course, the Founding Titan is #1 on the list, for a lot of reasons you probably don't know yet. Founding Titan was created about 2,000 years ago. Ymir Fritz's village was attacked and then enslaved by the Eldians. The Eldians then proceeded to cut out their tongues so they could never talk back to them. One day a pig was released from the pen of the Eldians, and the Eldians asks which one of the slaves did it. All of the slaves pointed at Ymir. So Ymir was set free in the way that she had set the pig free, supposedly, and was hunted down with bows and arrows and dogs. Drastically injured and trying to get away from the Eldians, Ymir took shelter under a tree. This tree she slipped into. There was a cavern under it filled with water and a weird spine-like creature. This spine-like creature melded with her, and she became the first Titan. And she went and she killed all the Eldians, right? Nope. She went back to serve the king she was a slave to. She was used to win wars, build bridges, and fertilize lands. And then she was used to crush Eldia's biggest enemy, Marley. In order to thank her, King Fritz took her as his concubine, meaning he didn't marry her, but he did give her children. Maria, sound familiar? Rose, sound familiar? And Shenna. After serving the king for 13 years, Ymir was killed during an assassination attempt. She threw her body in front of a spear to protect the king. The king, afraid that he might lose his power that helped him build his kingdom, forced the 3 daughters to eat every bit of Ymir's body. And after Ymir's death, she was transported to a weird land. The weird land that Ymir was transported to was the Coordinate, the place where all subjects of Ymir and their Titans would meet. On Earth, the king was demanding that all subjects of Ymir would continue to breed and then cannibalize each other. This way, no drop of Ymir's blood would ever be wasted. And even in death, Ymir continued to serve the king. Ymir's powers became the powers of the 9 Titans. She has created every single Titan that exists. Essentially, when any subject of Ymir invokes the power of a Titan, Ymir builds them a Titan. After 17 centuries, eventually the power of the Founding Titan fell into the hands of King Fritz. He decided to abandon the conflicts of Eldia and retreated to Paradise Island, where he built the walls Maria, Rose, and Sheena. With the Founding Titan now gone, the Great Titan War started. King Fritz then used the ability of the Founding Titan to wipe the history of Eldia from the minds of all the residents of Paradise, and made a pact with Marley that they would never use the Founding Titan's power for war, and that he would pass that down through his generations. The Founding Titan was passed down from royal family member to royal family member for many generations, and none of them ever dreamt of using it for war because King Fritz wouldn't allow them to. Eventually, the Founding Titan found its way into the Reese family, and then it found its way into Grisha's mouth. But what are the abilities of the Founding Titan? Because there is a lot. By the way, if this video does well, I would do a much more in-depth video on the Founding Titan. Most of the Founding Titan's abilities revolve around its scream. I put scream in quotation marks because it doesn't have to be a scream, and you don't even have to be in Founding Titan mode to use it. A human whisper will activate the scream. This scream can create subjects of Ymir's into Titans, and not just any random Titan. No, the Founding Titan can choose exactly how big or small you become. The Founding Titan can make you into a Colossus Titan like that. And this is actually how the walls were made. King Fritz had a bunch of people line up, made them into Colossus Titans, and then had them harden. This is like Zeke's ability, but incredibly powered up. You don't have to trick people into drinking your spinal fluid, and also you can control what kind of Titans they become. You can also control them as Titans, and much more than Zeke could. Founding Titan can command a Titan to do virtually anything. This was shown when Eren used this ability to have Pure Titans attack Dina Fritz's Titan. And once again, when this exact same thing happened and he had the Pure Titans attack the Armor Titan. And while this is only 100% effective on Pure Titans, it is shown to have influence over Titan shifters. And this influence has literally no range. Rod Reese said that it could be used to wipe out all Titans if used correctly. On top of this, the Founding Titan has the ability to change the memories of subjects of Ymir. Take for example how Frida Reese wipes the memories of Historia after every time she visited her, or how King Freach changed the memories of literally the entire Paradies in order to make them forget there was a world outside of their own. The only people immune to this are Ackermans, and obviously people who aren't subjects of Ymir. On top of that, remember how I said they can control what kind of Titan you would become? The Founding Titan can do a lot more than that to you anatomically. Zeke wanted to use it to make subjects of Ymir sterile. 600 years ago, a king used it to make the subjects of Ymir immune to a rampant epidemic. Let's say for some reason you don't get the immunity, and the Founding Titan has to tell you to get your flu shot this year. Don't worry about it, the Founding Titan can communicate with every subject of Ymir telepathically. But honestly, you wouldn't have to worry about that because the Founding Titan is also clairvoyant. What do I mean by that? Well, the Founding Titan doesn't see time on a linear scale. It sees the past, the future, and the current simultaneously. It can even go into the past to change events to make sure that the timeline doesn't get changed. It's weird, and I'll explain it better some other time, but essentially the Founding Titan is like the TVA from the Loki TV show. Should something else change the timeline, that is what the current Founding Titan is living in, it can go back in time to change that. Of course, it can only do this if it has royal blood though, or if somebody is in direct contact with somebody with royal blood. This is demonstrated when Eren is in direct contact with Dina Fritz's Titan and also with Zeke. There's also a bunch of other possibilities that allow people from outside of royal blood to use it, or people inside of royal blood who only come from half families to use it, but I'm not gonna go into all of that because like I said, if this video does well, I'll describe the Founding Titan better because it's so confusing. But yeah, that's the 9 Titans. I hope you enjoyed this because it did take a very long time to film. So guys, please, if you made it to the end of the video, first off, thank you, that's very nice of you. But second off, guys, it's not Naruto content, so it means a lot to me when it does well. I want to be known for more than Naruto. So if you liked what you saw, please, for me, like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'm not saying I wish every show was written like Attack on Titan, so people like me have a need to exist, but I don't know, Black Clover could be more confusing.